Ever considered how to craft a theoretical framework for a research paper? You're not alone. It's a fundamental component of any research project that can frequently feel overwhelming. Let's take, for example, a public health research paper studying the impact of social media on mental health. This topic demands a robust theoretical framework to underpin the research. Today, we'll not just be unraveling the mystery of developing a theoretical framework, but we'll also illustrate it using our public health example, breaking it down into easy-to-understand steps. First, what is a theoretical framework? It's the backbone of your research, the structure that holds your work together. Your research, providing context and support for your findings. It's a map that shows where you're going, how to get there, and why it's important. For instance, let's consider a theoretical framework based on the social cognitive theory. In this scenario, your research could explore how people acquire and maintain certain patterns, while also addressing the social conditions that aid or hinder these behaviors. The social cognitive theory in this case functions your map, guiding you through the landscape of human behavior and social interactions, and giving your findings context and support. It helps to determine not only where you're going with your research, but also how you'll get there, and why your journey is of significance. The first step in creating a theoretical framework is identifying your key concepts. For instance, in a study about the influence of social media on mental health, the key concepts might be social media usage, mental health indicators, and demographic factors. What the main ideas or phenomena you're studying? This could be anything from disease prevalence to health behaviors. Once you've identified these concepts, such as social media usage, mental health indicators, and demographic factors in our example, you need to define them clearly and succinctly. The second step is to dive into the literature review. Ask yourself, what theories or models have others employed to scrutinize these concepts? There's an abundance of health-related theories, ranging from the health belief model to the theory of planned behavior. One great example of literature review insightful findings is the previous studies on the correlation between social media and mental health. These studies have extensively utilized the social cognitive theory to understand the influences of social media on the psychological well-being of individuals. It's essential to mention that this theory is particularly relevant as it underscores the triadic reciprocality between personal factors, behavior, and the environment. Therefore, this step assists you in comprehending what's been done before and where your work finds its place. The third step is to decide on your theory or theories. Which one is most suitable for your research question and methodology? Let's illustrate this with an example. Suppose your research question revolves around the impact of role models in shaping a child's behavior, and your methodology involves a mixed method approach combining observation and surveys. In this scenario, the social cognitive theory, which emphasizes the importance of observational learning, imitation, and modeling, may be the most fitting theory to guide your research. Remember, the theory you select will significantly influence your research, so choose wisely. The fourth step is to create your conceptual framework. This is a visual diagram that elucidates the interconnectedness of your concepts and theories. It serves as a guide for you and your readers to comprehend the relationships between various aspects of your research. For instance, let's consider a research study on the impact of social media usage on mental health and the influence of demographic factors. The conceptual framework for this study would visually represent the relationships between social media usage, mental health indicators like depression or anxiety, and demographic factors such as age, gender, and socioeconomic status. It helps to illustrate how these factors interplay and influence each other, thereby facilitating a more comprehensive understanding of your research. The final step is to write your theoretical framework. Let's take a look at an example. Suppose your research question is, how does social media influence consumer buying behavior? This question is significant in today's digital age where online shopping is increasingly prevalent. The key concepts in this context may be social media, consumer buying behavior, and influence. Social media can be defined as digital platforms that facilitate interaction and content sharing. Consumer buying behavior refers to the decision-making process and actions of consumers related to purchasing products or services. Influence pertains to the capacity to have an effect on someone or something. Before we delve into the theory, it's essential to review the literature. You might want to consider studies about the impact of social media on customer behavior, consumer psychology, and the role of digital marketing. Next, you might choose to apply the uses and gratifications theory for your research, a theory that explains people use certain media outlets over others and how they use them to fulfill specific needs. This theory is relevant because it can shed light on how social media usage influences purchasing decisions. Finally, your conceptual framework might illustrate the relationship between variables. For example, the amount of time spent on social media platforms could influence the exposure to product advertisements, which in turn affects buying behavior. This framework guides your research by setting a clear path to follow and helps clarify your research question. In this way, you start with a clear introduction that explains your research question and its importance. Then discuss your key concepts and their definitions. Review the relevant literature, explain the theory or theories you've chosen, and present your conceptual framework, explaining how it guides your research. In summary, writing a theoretical framework involves identifying and defining key concepts, reviewing the literature, choosing a theory, creating a conceptual framework, and writing it all up. Let's illustrate this with an example summary using the public health research paper on the impact of social media on mental health. Firstly, you would identify and define key concepts such as social media, mental health, and impact. Then, you would review the literature on these topics and select a suitable theory, perhaps the social cognitive theory that highlights observational learning, peer influence, and the power of perception. The next step would be to create the conceptual framework, linking social media usage to mental health impacts, underpinned by this theory. Finally, you would write it all up, explaining your theoretical framework and its imperative role in research. It's a complex process, but by breaking it down into manageable steps, it becomes much less daunting. Remember, a good theoretical framework is like a roadmap for your research. It shows where you're going, how you'll get there, and why it's important. It's a vital part of any research paper, so take the time to do right. And that's it. You've just learned how to write a theoretical framework for a research paper while gaining an example insight into one. With these steps in mind, you're well on your way to creating a robust and effective theoretical framework. So go forth and let your research shine.